The Green Bay Packers have some problems, especially with their offense. And I know that's going to sound kind of crazy to say with a team that is currently 11-3, but there are some worries I have going into this final stretch. I do feel like there are some problems. Maybe they can fix them, I don't know, but I'm definitely at least a little bit concerned about certain parts of their offense, and let's just jump into what I am concerned with. Essentially, it's just something like this, where it's going to be a cover one hole, but it's man coverage right here, so Chicago isn't just going to have one-on-one matchups across the board. They are going to double team Adams right there with their safety who's deep. He's obviously in charge of covering deep downfield, but also if Adams runs in his direction, he's definitely going to pay extra attention to Davante Adams. And then also, so for Green Bay, they realize that, okay, if Adams is getting double teamed, this now makes things easier for other players, so potentially that route could end up getting open. It's over the middle, and since the safety will be playing deep to take away Davante Adams, who's actually running a go route, so he'll be towards the sideline on the top half of the screen, this now means that this route should be a good route against this type of situation. And especially because after the ball is snapped, as you notice, there will be some separation here. This route is open, and Rodgers sees this, so he is going to fire it in that direction. However, Geronimo Allison just isn't able to make this catch, and quite frankly, that's a ball you have to catch. I mean, that whole play worked out, you know. Davante Adams did his part of drawing the double team. Not always are you going to be able to overcome double team. Sometimes your job is to just draw the double team. But for Allison, you have to make that grab. And really, that's my main problem with this Packers offense, is I am just a little bit worried about the fact that I don't know who their number 2 option is. I think their offense, to a large degree, is Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Davante Adams, and they don't have a ton else going on right now. And Aaron Rodgers also, it does have to be mentioned, he's not having as good of a season as we've seen in past years. He's someone who, going into this season, I said was the best quarterback in the NFL. I still think I feel that way. Maybe I would say Mahomes has passed him, but he's definitely still an elite quarterback, no doubt about it. But he has made some mistakes that he just hasn't made in the past. And this one's a great example where, first off, there's going to be a receiver running that route right there, and really take a look at that Chicago linebacker who's going to try to cover him on this one. He actually thinks it's going to be a route that's going to break to the outside, and so he's going to try to jump it, but it's going to backfire in a huge way. I mean, as you see, he's just wide open at this point. And while this is cover 2, both of the Chicago's defensive backs who are deep are very far out. I mean, they're basically both at the numbers. So for Rodgers, he has a wide open receiver, and this should honestly probably be a touchdown. However, he just underthrows this, and honestly, that one should have been picked. I mean, that was just an uncharacteristic mistake by Rodgers, but he's made a few of those this season, and that's something I'm a bit worried about as well, is it's like, Rodgers is so talented, and it seems like he makes so many great throws, but he almost looks human a little bit, you know, especially against the Bears game. He had a poor performance against them, in my opinion, even though they got the win, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like, a poor performance from Aaron Rodgers is not a poor performance from anybody else. I hold him to a higher standard. 203 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. That's not a disaster for a lot of people, but for Aaron Rodgers, it's something that I think he can play better than that. He has played better than that. And listen, I'm not trying to say that he's bad. He's absolutely had some monster games. I mean, you know, he did throw for 429 yards and 5 touchdowns against the Raiders. Just a couple of weeks ago, he threw for 4 touchdowns and no interceptions against the Giants. And in fact, he only has 2 interceptions all season. But I do think that he has missed some throws this season that it seems like he usually doesn't miss. It just does have to be mentioned. I can't make a YouTube video where I talk about how Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense maybe isn't playing as well and not bring up Aaron Rodgers. But at the end of the day, I don't really blame Aaron Rodgers that much. I think Aaron Rodgers has played fine. I think Aaron Rodgers is far from some of the problems that have happened on offense. I think he's actually played pretty well. But I do think that there are some problems on offense. Most of them are just that Davante Adams is kind of their only target right now. And I think a play like this will actually do a really good job of just showing exactly what I mean. This is going to be a 4th down and 6 here, so obviously it's imperative that they pick up 6 yards. It's going to be a cover 1 man play that the Bears are in, and for the Packers, that's going to be Davante Adams' route, and that's where Rodgers is going to look to throw the ball to, which makes some sense. It could potentially get open, but also what's really unique is going to be that route right there. Not really because of the route itself, but because of what happens right when the ball is snapped. There's a cross-up by Chicago. He is wide open at this point. Nobody is covering him. Now, there still is a Bear kind of in the area of where he's running, but at the same time, he's going to get wide open just in another second. The problem, of course, is that Rodgers doesn't have another second. There's pressure coming, so he has to make his decision right now, but even with that, he could potentially still throw it in that direction. However, Rodgers, he doesn't even realize all of that because he's just focused on Adams. He's going to throw this ball to Adams no matter what. Adams doesn't even get open, but he still tries to fire it in that direction and it falls incomplete. There was just no window there. It was good coverage. Can't really blame Adams or Rodgers for the throw and no catch, but what you can blame them for is the fact that Rodgers wasn't looking around, but I think the reason why Rodgers wasn't looking around seeing if something else was open was simply because he didn't trust that another receiver could get open in that situation. On a 4th down and 6, he was always going to throw it to Adams' direction. And to me, I kind of say, if you're already going to throw it to Adams even if he's not open, why not look somewhere else first just to see if somebody does get open, like what happened there where someone got wide open. And then if you don't see anything else open, then you just look over and throw it in Adams' direction because you won't have to make a decision then. You'll just have to look over to see where you're throwing since you're already okay with throwing it to him if he's covered. But the reality is, Rodgers just doesn't trust his other receivers right now, and kind of for a good reason. I mean, they've had a lack of weapons other than Adams. I know some guys have come on strong. Jimmy Graham is still an effective tool, even if he's not what he once was. You also have Lazard, who I think has played pretty well, but again, that's not exactly an elite receiving core right there. It really is mostly Adams right now. And opposing teams know it. Like on this play, perfect example of how that really creates some problems. It's going to be zone coverage, and those are the routes on the top half of the screen that the Packers will be running. Adams is the number 2 receiver, so the guy second furthest down from the top half of the screen. And that's where Rodgers is going to want to throw this ball to because it is a pretty good route against this type of coverage. However, the second that Adams starts running in that direction, if you notice that Chicago player right there, he's already breaking in and ready to make a play on this. So when Rodgers does fire it in that direction, it just gets broken up because, again, Chicago knew that the Green Bay Packers are going to try to force the ball to Adams as much as possible. And right there, it definitely did not help them in a big way. I mean, if he knew that was going to happen, maybe he could have tried to throw it over that Chicago player. But Rodgers, again, he's trying to get the ball to Davante Adams. For a good reason, I get it, because Davante Adams is really good, but because you keep trying to get the ball to Adams, it then creates some problems. I think really the solution is you have to still keep throwing to your other receivers, to your B receivers, even if they aren't as talented, because at the end of the day, if you try to only feed Davante Adams, it will create some huge problems. You have to throw it to where the defense gives you some leeway, and right now that's not in Davante Adams' way. I think we're clearly seeing teams double Adams more and more, and so for the Packers, you have to adjust. And their running game has still been good all season, so they're not dead in the water by any means. I still am when I'm making this video, I'm not saying the Packers are dead. I'm just saying this is the problem I have going into the postseason. I mean, listen, they're still 11-3, and if they win out, they'll get a bye week. So they're definitely in a pretty solid opportunity right now, but I do feel like I have to bring this up because it is a small problem I have with the Packers. Like one last play that I thought this play just shouldn't be happening with a team that has this much talent. It's going to be, once again, it's a cover 1 play by Chicago. And for Green Bay, really the route that they're going to want to throw the ball to would be Davante Adams' route right there. But also keep in mind that Chicago has 6 players on the line. One of them is a linebacker lined up against a tight end, so basically he'll just say, if the tight end is blocking, then I rush the passer. If he's not, then I drop back into coverage. But for everyone else, there's 5 other Bears on the line and 5 offensive linemen. So you'd think that every guy would just focus in on like that, where everyone just watches the guy in front of him, and then if it turns out that the person they're looking at drops back into coverage, then you essentially just play zone and find somebody to hit. However, after the ball is snapped, if you look at Green Bay's right tackle, he's kind of not doing that at all, actually. He's moved in to block a Chicago Bear who's further in, meaning that Chicago Bear is going to get by completely untouched. Rodgers doesn't have a chance to get the ball to Adams because there is pressure. He has to just throw it up there and it falls incomplete. It's a mistake I'm okay with happening on week 4, but at this point, it shouldn't be happening, and the fact that it still is, those kind of things, they worry me a little bit for Green Bay. I'm not saying I think Green Bay is done. The reality is they keep winning, and you know what? I don't care how ugly you win. A win is a win. So you do have to give them credit in that regard. I think their defense is still pretty good. I think that obviously Aaron Jones is a great halfback, but there definitely are some concerns I have with this team. I really do think that they have to beat the Vikings coming up, and then they're probably going to have to win week 17 against the Lions as well, which that one would be pretty easy, assuming, you would think that'd be pretty easy at least, but against the Vikings, that's going to be a tough matchup, and I really do feel they have to win. I don't know if the Saints are going to lose another game, and obviously the Seahawks and 49ers will probably win their Week 16 matchups, and then one of them has to win Week 17, unless they tie. So for Green Bay, it really does seem like they're probably going to have to beat the Vikings to get a bye week, and I think that bye week is crucial. I just don't know if this team is good enough to go on the road for 3 games if they lose to the Vikings and then lose to the Lions. But I also just don't know if they're going to have the ability to win a home game if they do just end up not getting the bye week and then going on the road twice, trying to beat the Seahawks or the 49ers, and then also trying to beat a team like the Saints in the Superdome. That just seems really tough, and I think Green Bay is going to have to get a bye week if they're going to have a chance to go all the way this year. Honestly, my gut kind of says that I think they might be a year away. I think they might have to wait until next year, until they can get more receiving help, until they can continue to try to implement this Matt LaFleur style offense. That's just kind of where my gut says. I think Green Bay is set up nicely for next year. I'm not quite totally sold on this year, but at the end of the day, with a first-year head coach looking to make a bye going into Week 16, I mean, they're in good shape, but again, I'm talking about in terms of trying to win the Super Bowl this year, not trying to just make some noise. I think they will make some noise, but will they win the Super Bowl? My gut says no. I think they'll have to wait till next year, but again, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to just say that they don't have a chance, but as of right now, I think they're going to have somebody else step up in a big way, and they're going to have it happen quickly, or they might be in trouble.